So, after spending an hour and a half of getting Q-blocked on the NA server, I decided to try my luck on the Korea server. I saved this footage in the video in hopes that someone hidden in the depths of the internet would know a way to fix this. I would have liked to keep the series dedicated only to the NA server. Unfortunately, that won't be possible due to having to evade the Q-blocking bots. So, I'll just get what I can take. At any rate, we find ourselves on the Korean server here, and as you can see, we are in the loading screen. And this is a full random game, so this, when you're in the loading screens of these types of games, it gets all kinds of wonky. Particularly with your teammate, it's a random barcode. You have no idea what the skill level is. You don't know how to approach the game, etc., etc. One thing I can say is that seeing a Kaizi clan tag, for those of you who are, involved in StarCraft, many professional players have been on that team, and in my experience, oftentimes what those clan tags ultimately end up being are just team owners, messing around in the game, whatever. But regardless, first thing I can see here is for random, and I can see a Kaizi clan tag and a barcode teammate. And so going into the game, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt. You're really just sort of rolling the dice no matter what you decide to do, because, even if you were to send a worker right off the rip here, you're not really going to be able to get the information that you need regardless. So you can see I set my rally point to the back behind the shrubberies on this map, and the reason I do this is because I want to have a wall back here, just in case there's two Terran, and you want to make sure you have a wall back there against two Terran, because two Reapers on this map can be incredibly imbalanced. So you want to limit the surface area as much as you can, if they do in fact spawn two Terran, which is very unlikely to happen. But if my teammate is good enough, he'll be able to wall the ramp by himself, and I have to choose at this point what I'm going to do. The thought process in this game was simply this. Generally speaking, random players are weak at they're weak 66.6% of the time. And the logic behind this is that they're playing random, and everyone has a main race. Everyone has a race that they're best with. But actually spawning into that race, there's a 33% chance. And so what I decided to do in this game is I decide to try and expose that, or take advantage of that fact. Myself as a random player, I've been doing it for years. I've got hundreds of thousands of games under my belt as a random player, so there's a very good chance that I'm going to be more skilled than my opponents. And so what I decided to do here is I decided to go for a 3-Rax Reapers open. Now again, a lot of people will look at this open as an all-in. It's not really an all-in. It's not designed to kill the opponents, but what it is designed to do is it's designed to put your opponents in a bad state of mind, throw them off their rhythm, etc., etc., and then set yourself up decently for a mid to late game transition. So as you can see with my build, I've completed the Reaper wall in the back, and now I can see a Zerg player. So now I know it's TZ, and this build is not optimal against TZ. It's not a very good build against TZ under pretty much any circumstances, and so at this point I know I've lost the gamble in the early game, right? So what I opt to do here is I just... It's not all the time that I will overcommit, but in this particular game I decided that I was going to overcommit with Reaper Micro and just pick up anything and everything that I can. Because if I'm paying attention to the mini-map, I can see that my teammate seems to be playing like a normal game, right? And so if I just continue to pressure and continue to harass, Zerg player will miss injects, Terran player will miss SCV macro, You know, he'll over micro, etc., etc. And so that's the whole goal here. The whole goal here is to screw up their game plan and empower my teammate in some way, shape, or form. Now, if I was looking at the minimap and I could see that my teammate wasn't really playing a normal game, then I would play a little bit more conservatively. And now here I see 2 Cyclones. And from this point forward, you know, I feel like I've done enough damage. And we have map control. So I'm just going to link up with him and then try to do some sort of a frontal assault. That's the game plan here. And all the while transitioning into a bio composition. And the reason I'm going to go bio here, obviously, is because I open with the 3 Rax Reapers. I have the infrastructure. We have the map control, etc., etc. Now, this micro engagement here was quite bad. Well, actually, it was actually pretty good. I don't really have much to comment there. That was actually really good. That nade was terrible. And as you can see, I'm just transitioning out of this play now that we've, you know, done a lot of damage here. We've killed a lot of lings, which means there's going to be less drones. Things of that nature. And so we actually end up doing a lot more damage here than I originally anticipated. And it's pretty much game over from here. Like, they can't really come back, you know, between all the pressure that I put on early game and, you know, and especially Terran on this map is incredibly overpowered with the way that the Reaper mechanic works and stuff like that. There's just not much that they can do at this point. And thus ends the game. Now, there's a couple of different scenarios that can play out here. You know, for example, if I had ever found myself in the early game not taking very good trades, and I could, you know, if I was looking at the minimap and I could see that that my teammate was just kind of like, you know, useless or whatever, what I likely would have opted into in this situation is actually a 5 Rax instead of the 3rd CC. And the reason for this is because when you make this type of a play, this Reaper play, a lot of times what it's going to force is it's going to force lots of Zerglings and lots of units coming out of the Terran rather than expansions. And so if you go up to a 5 Rax rather than the 3rd CC, this will put you in a really good defensive position. So if they push, you'll likely be able to wipe out the push and then make a counterattack with a 5 Rax Reaper play. So that's pretty much the only variation that I would have made here. But in this game, I opt for the earlier transition, just due to the fact that in my peripheral vision, because if you were watching the game, you could clearly see that I never actually looked at my teammate. I could just clearly see that he was playing a normal game. The only thing that I was really concerned about was the saturation on the natural. But I felt with the damage that I did early on that I could make that transition and play more of an eco game rather than going up to the 5 Rax transition. And after the 5 Rax transition, obviously you will eventually make an expansion, but that really all just depends on how the game evolves. And with that being said, that game keeps me at rank 8 on the Korean server. And I'll see you guys on the next video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Have a good day, gentlemen.